Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, The Simple Cozy Haven, and my name is Kaylee, and I'm so glad that you're here for today's video. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about our backyard makeover, a few things that we want to do, a few things that we've done, and just kind of start brainstorming for the future. We're so excited to just like sit down and even be like dreaming this up and, you know, bringing you guys along for the ride. You guys have really seemed to love our projects and kind of just watching the process. I personally love to watch that, so I'm so glad that you guys love it too. So if you are new here, I live in a new build neighborhood and I feel like our backyard is just rectangular and flat and just really boring. So we wanted to kind of add some landscaping and add just some beauty and just something more to the space. It just felt really one-dimensional and it just doesn't really feel like us. We really wanted to kind of bring what we do on the inside of our home to the outside. So we are starting with adding, I think we end up doing 13 emerald green arborvitae trees to our back fence line. So our house kind of sits up on an elevation and I don't love that I can see everything that my neighbors are doing in their backyard and house, just because we're so much higher. And we'd love to have just a little bit more privacy. And I know like these trees aren't going to be 15 feet tall tomorrow, but you know, in years they will eventually grow and get bigger and wider and fill in the space. But we have like our back fence lines on roughly 80 feet. So we are going to be planting emerald green arborvitaes there. We went between the emerald green arborvitaes and spruce trees, but ultimately went with the emerald green because I thought that just kind of matched more of the vibe that we're going for. And then so we're going to mulch it. We're going to just completely cover the back fence line. And I had previously bought 3 limelight hydrangea plants last year and I just never planted them. You know, we knew that we wanted to do something in the backyard, but we just weren't like committed and we weren't, it wasn't the time to be doing it. Like I bought those in July and it was not the time to be planting those plants because, you know, in July here it's like literally 100 degrees and then August is even hotter. So, you know, we just kind of like kept them alive in the pots, which I'm really surprised that I was able to keep them alive in just the nursery pot. So very proud of that. But we plan to put those in the backyard too. So we're gonna do the emerald green arborvitaes and then we're also gonna plant some of the limelight hydrangeas. I've only got 3 so far. And based on like the spacing, I need 9 more. So that'll be another project down the road. I don't know if that'll be this year or not, but we plan to like do the trees on the very back and then in between the trees forward, put in the limelights. I think that's just gonna look really pretty. I'll throw up some of my inspiration photos right here. You know, obviously this isn't gonna be what it looks like this year or even next year, just, you know, given the nature of plants. You know, the first year they sleep, the second year they creep, and then the third year they leap. And I found that very true with my Peggy Martin roses I've also done in the backyard. So like, we just have so many different things going on. I am going to be sharing with you guys all of that coming up next, all of the planting and kind of just like the grunt work. I did not do any like talking whenever we were doing this. I just like set the camera up so I'll have some fun music and then just kind of like talk to you guys some more with a voiceover in that part of the video. But I'm also really excited for a little collaboration. OLLNY, OLLNY. I'll have the title here and then I'll have all the links down below. So they reached out to me and wanted to know if I would love to include some of their solar powered string lights in my backyard renovation makeover. And I was like, absolutely, because that's actually something we've really wanted to do. We added some string lights in our back patio and I was like, I would love to have something to light up the back of the fence. You know, we've looked at all different types of like deck light type situations, but I love the look of just classic like bistro string lights. I am so obsessed with them. But you know, another thing that we're like, how are we gonna like keep power supplied out there? Because all the ones we were looking at online, you know, prior to this conversation, they were all just like plug-in. But OLLNY reached out and they offer some plug-in string lights too, but they also offer solar powered, which is so awesome. So I told them what I was doing in my project, and I told them how many feet I would need. I ended up going with the 110-foot string version. That way I could kind of drape them along the back fence line. So they were so kind and sent me this box, and unfortunately it kind of ripped because my toddler was very excited. He was like, oh, lights, lights, lights. But I'm so excited, and I picked the one that has, it's like the classic round bowl, which I absolutely love. Their packaging is just so cute too, like light up the joy of life, right? I love that. So in the box you will get, so this is the solar panel. This is awesome. And then you just will plug in and then tighten up the screw for the light connection. So love this, and you can mount it to a fence. This piece is movable, so you can, you know, however you need to optimize your lighting and the solar power, you can do that. This is the plug, and then it just screws in tight, so it's perfectly waterproof, safe to use outside. And if you're not able to get enough solar power, let's say you're having like an event and it was like really rainy that day or something, there is an option for a USB plug, which is like totally awesome because one, we all have a bajillion USB cords, and you know, if you really need just the extra power, this will work. So this is the G40 option of their lights, and you can go check out all of their different ones. They offer like so many different options. So here are the lights. I know I have not taken them apart yet because I'm like, I just know it'll become a tangled mess for me, but they're just the traditional, and they're plastic, so they're not gonna break. So, you know, this is just like, they thought of everything for this. So just the plastic bulbs, and they are just like round. So they're just that really beautiful bistro look. Like you could even run these outside on a deck, or do like the string lights that hang from the poles, you know, up above. But we're gonna like do something like that for our deck as well, which I love, and we'll be talking about that very soon. One thing I really love about this particular light set I picked out is there's a remote, so you can turn it on, you can turn it off. Like if you don't need it to run one night, you could just go ahead and turn it off from the remote. That way you don't have to go out to the little solar panel and cycle it off. There are different timer options for 30 minutes, 2 hours, 4, 6, and 8 hours. And then you could do like a steady on, and then it's also dimmable, which is so cool. So obviously we're gonna be doing it at full blast because we want all of the ambiance, all of the glow. But how cool is that? I love this. And then they also just give you 2 other ways to attach the solar panel. You can either put it in through a stake, or you can clip it on if you have something. I think we're just gonna drill it into the fence. I think that's what we will do, but amazing that they send that. So I'm very excited. Let's go outside, and I'm gonna have my husband help me and set that up. Installation was so easy for these lights. All I did was pre-drill a hole, and then I screwed in these little mug hooks. I don't know what they're technically called. Maybe it's a C hook, but they were just really easy, and I just twisted them in, and then I used the very first light and used the back of the bulb. There's like a little hook for it, and then I just placed it on there, and I went ahead and ran the lights all the way down the fence line. That way I could have them all already displayed, and then I could just go back in and evenly space them and drape them how I want. And then I just installed the solar panel on the top of a fence post facing the southwest side of my house. That way we could get the optimum sun power. So that was super easy. I could do it, you can do it, I believe in you. And it was as easy as that. Once you plugged it in and just turned them on, they immediately start charging and you are ready to go. This is what it looked like when they were done, and I think they just look really nice. And this is what they look like at night. So now to get into how we got to where we were. This is the starting point of our backyard. Y'all, it is terrible. When I say it is builder grade, I mean it is so builder grade. It is not graded properly, and we have the worst grass ever. The sod is awful, but we're gonna make it look a little bit better. So we've got about 80 foot of fence line to cover. So we are just going ahead and my husband is measuring it to make sure it's, right at 80 feet. And then we come back and we mark center since we knew we wanted to do an odd number of trees. We just wanted to like mark center and then kind of go from there based on the sizing and spacing of the emerald green arborvitaes that we chose. So we knew that we were just going to do a 6-foot deep bed. That way we could pull the trees about 2.5 feet off of the fence line. So to save us some time, and I don't know if this was the best practice, but this is just what we did, and we've done this before. We just got some weed barrier fabric that we're just gonna place on top of the grass. And y'all, we killed this grass last summer with a tarp on top of it when we left our water slide out there for a day too long. So the grass is like nothing special. It will die, and right now we're just trying to like kill the grass off without having to create too much more work for ourselves. So this is a really long thing of 6-foot wide weed barrier fabric that we are just going to go in and stake down, and then we're going to come back and start stapling it to the back of the fence. That way we don't lose any of the future mulch. Since our house kind of sits on that elevation and we slope in 2 different directions, we were very cautious about making sure we didn't lose any mulch whenever we get a massive rain. And a few days actually after we did this project, we had a huge like monster storm out of nowhere. And I mean, it poured for like 3 hours and all of our mulch washed away. But luckily it just washed down to one side of the yard. So I will talk about this later, but we do have plans to come back and do like a brick border one day, and that will definitely help the water not coming in from the south side of the yard come down into this flower bed essentially that we're making. So long story short, we are just trying to do our best, and yeah, that's kind of all you can do sometimes. So we just came back and staked this down with the small little metal fabric pins for the yard, and we were just kind of placing them along as we went, and we did come back and put in more once we were done. So we are just pulling it tight that we can make sure that it was the 6 feet depth, and then stapled them in basically. And we found that it was easier to step on them to get them all the way down into the ground because we have clay soil, and that stuff is no joke. So we came back to our originally dug hole in the center, and we just kind of used a pocket knife to create an X or a plus sign in the fabric. That way we could dig the hole out more and plant the tree around it. And I know that this fabric probably isn't the best for this application, but we did like open up the cut all the way whenever we were done planting, and we put the dirt on top of it just to kind of make sure that there was an opening large enough for rain or just whenever we water the plants. So that's what we did, and then we went ahead and measured 6 feet out from each hole and just kind of marked it with those landscaping pins as well. We knew that these needed to be about 6 feet apart. You really could have done 5, but we didn't want to create like a full hedge in this area, thinking long term down the road. But so we went ahead and spaced everything out about 6 feet apart. So as far as planting and digging out the holes for the trees, we tried to make sure that the hole was about twice the size as the bucket that the trees are in. This way you can give your tree a chance to really develop those roots in nice loose soil before it starts having to like compete with the rest of the ground. So we just would go back and forth measuring to see how much more dirt we needed to put back in the bottom before we put the tree in, because you don't want them to be underneath the ground. You definitely want to raise them up by an inch or 2 just to make sure that they are able to thrive.
Gold leaves
So we just used black cow compost, and we actually ended up, not in this clip, but we got some topsoil, just regular old topsoil from the garden center, and used that to kind of mix in with the red clay. These trees don't really love the clay. They will do fine, but you just have to be careful and not overwater them. So anyways, we were just kind of like mixing it all together. I have honestly found that I've been fairly successful with planting shrubs and trees, so hopefully this works out the same. So to dig the holes after we'd already laid the landscape fabric, Robbie, my husband, just used post hole diggers, and then I would come back in with the shovel and kind of just widen out the space and then haul away the dirt that he had dug up. So like I said, we wanted these to be 6 feet apart, center to center, and they were about 2.5 feet off the fence. So before we started filling in the dirt around the trees, we just kind of centered them and measured everything to make sure that they'd be in a perfect line, because that would just absolutely drive me crazy. So here we are. I'm like, I can't see from here, so I'm gonna have to bend down and check and make sure that it's actually where it needs to be.
I'll follow only golden, golden things.
So day one of this project, we were able to plant 3 trees, and then the next day we just kind of got out here, and I didn't feel the need to keep filming trees. So we came out the next morning and planted the other 10, and then it was time to start our landscape edging, and we went with this no dig option. We do plan to do like a brick border eventually, but you know, sometimes you have to break up your projects into stages just because of your budget. The brick that we decided we want to do would end up being about $500 to $600, and after spending a good chunk of change on the trees, it just wasn't the right time. So we went with this affordable option for now, and later on we will get to the brick border. So before we started hammering the stakes into this border, Robbie had run a string line 6 feet off of the back fence and then installed that line to either side of the fence. That way we could have just a guide to follow, and this really helped us. So he just went and worked his way down the yard and following that line, and it was a little bit tricky, but it actually came out fairly well for what it is. You know, we'll perfect it whenever we put in the brick, but I think it came out perfect for now. And adding the brown mulch made this project pop. So I started just dumping out the bags of mulch. I think we did about 30 bags in total, and it was actually fairly easy. You just rake it out. I love remulching our front yard and the flower bed in front of our house every year. So this is kind of just therapeutic. I love leveling it out and just seeing what a difference fresh mulch makes. And there I am, just stepping on the string line, getting in trouble. But that's really all there was to this project. It was just a lot of grunt work, and we were actually able to get it done in just over 24 hours, which was absolutely crazy to me. We got about 20 bags of the mulch at first, and we finished up and went inside, cooked dinner, put the kids down, and Robbie had ran back to Lowe's to get about 10 more bags of mulch, I believe. And it was about 7:30 at that point, and it was dark, but we were like, let's just finish this. So we were able to get this project done. We started on a Saturday afternoon and it was done by Sunday evening, which was so rewarding. And then the next day I went in and installed those outdoor string lights, and I just love the little bit of cozy ambiance that area has now. I love being able to sit on the back porch and see those string lights, and it just looks so cozy, and it makes me really excited to really work on the rest of our backyard. So this is where we left it that night before we finished it, but it came out so good. And now we just have to plant 9 more hydrangeas. I've actually got 3 planted so far, but we love how it's turned out. I love how the backyard is coming together. The back fence line with the back porch, it is just so much cozier this year, and I'm so happy with it. It's been so worth all of the work and a headache that it's been getting to this point, but it's so worth it. So we also have plans to build a deck off of the back porch. We had looked into doing like a concrete slab, but because we have like a slope in 2 directions, like it goes out and then down the other way, it was just going to be so expensive, and we didn't really want to pay for that, you know, pay a contractor, but that just wasn't in the budget, and I don't see us ever wanting to spend that much money because this isn't a forever home. If it was, I would not have bought a house on a slope. Never do that again. But so in doing it ourselves would just be a tremendous amount of work, and you know, we've got 3 kids, and that's just not, it wasn't really worth that to us. So we were talking and we're like, what if we just put in a deck down there on the ground? You know, that way it'd be so much easier to get level, and we wouldn't have to like bring dirt in or take dirt out. It would just be so much easier than trying to do pavers or a concrete slab. So I think that's what we're going to do, and we've already kind of been planning it out and pricing everything out. We're starting to get our budget together for all of that, but I think it's gonna be so much fun. We would love to have a place to like put the like the outdoor grill and everything, and then have like an outdoor table. I would love to have an outdoor table and like do some spring and summer tablescapes, and just have a place to be at down there in the backyard. Like when you're up on the patio, you just feel so disconnected from the backyard. You know, the kids play out there all the time, and I would just love to be able to sit down there with them, or you know, on nice summer days we could go have a dinner out there, or the kids and I could have lunches out there during the summer break, you know, or just whenever, weekends too. So just having like another area to maximize our home and the space that we have. So that's just a plan. We might get around to that this summer, depending on just the timing and logistics of everything. And, you know, of course, the budget. We do everything on a budget here. So thank you so much for watching with me to this point. Thank you so much to OLLNY for sponsoring today's video, and I hope you guys go check them out. The description box will have all of the links and everything, and I'm so happy with everything, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will chat with you guys very soon. Bye, y'all.